us know what you would like.
Can I share the screen so I can read from the displayed the verse?
Shashwin, are you able to give me the host rights? Then I can do it, or you can let Prabhuji share the screen.
Okay,
Okay,
now I
let me
can.
reclaim host. Okay, I have reclaimed. And let me.
Is disabled.
Yes. Prabhuji,
Okay.
you can now share your screen.
Okay, thank you very much. Because I have a bit of a I'm still recovering from my fever, so I still have some difficulty speaking as much. Would someone like to lead the prayers before we start? If that's okay.
Shashwin, would you like to do the Mangala Charan, please? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, kindly continue.
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Tadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shriyutapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sakrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvedam Swavadudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanushrute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanjakalpatarubhyascha Kirpa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. We'll just say praises to Shri Vyasadeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. So nice to be with you all. Last 2 weeks there was a bit of issues on my part due to times change and confusion, so I wasn't able to attend the Sangha, so I do apologize. I've just come back from England. I was there for 3 weeks, so I picked up a cold, which I'm still recovering from. So if I cough, sneeze, then please excuse me. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Verse 30. So I'll do the we'll just go straight to Sanskrit pronunciation. Let me pronounce it properly. Dyo Rakshini Chakshur Abhut Patangaha. If anyone would like to repeat after me. So I'm sure I said that.
Rakshini Chakshurabhutpatangaha.
Dyo Rakshini Chakshur Abhut Patangaha.
Dyo Rakshini
Rakshini Chakshur Abhyut Patangaha.
Bakshmani Vishnur Ahani Ubhecha.
Lakshmani Vishnur Ahani Ubhe
Abhani
Ubhecha.
Bakshmani Vishnur Ahani Ubhecha.
Lakshmani Vishnur Ahani Ubhecha.
Tad Bruhu Virjirbaha Parameshti Dishnam.
Tat Bruhu Vidrimbaha Parmesti Visnyam.
Tad Bruhu Virjirbaha Parameshti Dishnam.
Tad Bhuru Vrichya
Parmesti
Parmeshti
Visnyam.
Aposya Talu Rasa Eva Jiva.
Aposya Talurasa Eva Jiva.
Aposya Talu Rasa Eva Jiva.
Aposya Talurasa Eva Jiva.
Jiva.
Okay, we'll do what the synonyms. Dio, the sphere of outer space.
Dyuha, the sphere of outer space.
Akshini, the
Akshini.
eyeballs.
Akshini, the eyeballs.
The eyeballs.
Chaksu, of eyes.
Chakshu, of
Chakshu,
eyes.
of eyes.
Thank you.
Abhut, it so became.
Abhut, it so became.
Abhyut, it so became.
Patangaha, the sun.
Patangaha, the sun.
Bakshmani, the eyelids.
Pakshmani, eyelids.
Vishnu, of the personality of Godhead, Sri Vishnu.
Vishnu, of the personality of Godhead, Sri Vishnu.
Ahani, day and night.
Ahani, day and night.
Ubhe, both.
Ubhe, both.
Cha, and.
Cha, and.
Tat, his.
Tat, his.
Bru, eyebrows.
Bru, eyebrows.
Vijir Baha, movement.
Brijay Baha, movements.
Param Eshti, the supreme entity Brahm.
Parameshti, the
Brahm.
supreme entity Brahma.
Dhishnyam, post.
Dishyam, post.
Apaha, Varuna, the director of water.
Apaha,
direct of water.
Asya, he.
Ashya, his.
His. Dalu, palette.
Talu, palette.
Rasaha, juice.
Rasaha, juice.
Eva, such certainly.
Eva, certainly.
Jiva, the tongue.
Jiva, the tongue.
Translation: the sphere of outer space constitutes his eye pits, and the eyeball is the sun as the power of seeing. His eyelids are both the day and night, and in the movement of his eyebrows, Brahma and similar supreme personalities reside. His palate is the director of water, Varuna, and the juice or essence of everything is his tongue. Purport. To common sense, the description in this verse appears to be somewhat contradictory because sometimes the sun has been described as the eyeball and sometimes as the outer space sphere. But there is no room for common sense in the injunctions of the Shastras. We must accept the description of the Shastras and concentrate more on the form of the Virat Rupa than on common sense. Common sense is always imperfect, whereas the description in the Shastras is always perfect and complete. If there's any congruity, it is due to our imperfection and not the Shastra. That is the method of approaching Vedic wisdom. Good. So Hare Krishna. This is a very short purport, and this chapter is describing the Vishwarupa of the Lord. And we hear about the Vishwarupa in the Mahabharata when Krishna displayed it in the assembly of Dhritarashtra when Duryodhana tried to arrest him. And it's explained only a few people could see that form. And that was Karna was one of them, Dronacharya, Bhishma Dev, Vidura. There's one more person, I can't remember his name. And then Krishna shows it again to Arjuna. And it's explained that the form that Krishna showed Arjuna had never been shown before. And it was the full form of the Vishwarupa. Also, it's explained later on in the Mahabharata that Krishna met his friend Uttanga. And Uttanga was having a discussion with Krishna saying, if you're the supreme, why didn't you stop the war? You can't be the supreme. So they got into discussion. Then Uttanga tried to curse him. It's Leela. So then Krishna showed his universal form. And he showed the same universal form that he showed Arjuna. We also hear that Mother Yashoda saw a universal form in Krishna's mouth twice. And also in Chaitanya Bhagavad it's described that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I believe he was at the house of Vetacharya, I can't remember, but he also displayed a universal form, the same one that Arjuna had seen. And, the devotees went into ecstasy. So before I came into Krishna consciousness, I always used to think that this form was the ultimate form of God. It was the supreme form. But when I came to Krishna consciousness, I found out that this is not the ultimate form of God. It's sometimes called a material form because it's made up of the material elements. It displays the material elements of the universe. It's also called an imaginary form because it's not imaginary in the sense that it's not real. It is real. And we can see that Krishna displayed it to his devotees and to certain different people. But it's basically a form that it's temporary. It's not a form that should be worshipped by the devotees. By the materialists and the yogis, they can worship this form. But it's not a form that invokes love. It's a form that invokes fear. One can also say this form can also lead to pantheism, worshipping God in nature, which is kind of an extension of Mayavad philosophy, when you worship things in material nature to be God. So you could also argue that. But Krishna is explained in the Bhagavad Gita when Krishna shows his form. Arjuna says to him, please go back to your original two-handed form. And then Krishna says that this form is also very dear and it's very difficult to obtain. And the commentaries by the acharyas, they explain that this form is a very difficult form to see of Krishna in his two-handed form. So, we're being overwhelmed and excited by the universal form, but Krishna's form, his two-handed Tribhanga form, is much more incredible, much more amazing, much more wonderful, because it's that form that has the six opulences to the ultimate degree. It's that form which Lakshmi Devi desires to leave the chest of Narayan and to participate in the Ras Leela dance. It's even explained that even Mahavishnu desired to see that form. So, there's the pastime where he took away the sons of the Brahmanas, and then Arjuna made a vow that if he couldn't protect the Brahmanas' children, he'd kill himself. So then Krishna knew who it was, so he took Arjuna on the chariot through the material universe until he came to Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu says, I wanted to see you, Krishna. I wanted to have your darshan. And, Mahavishnu is an expansion of Krishna. And he's really non-different. But even he wanted to see Krishna's two-handed form, because Krishna comes personally once in a day of Brahma, is explained. He personally comes, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes personally, Krishna comes once in a day of Brahma. So it's and you know, like it leads on to the main theme here about for me about accepting the Vedic conclusion over common sense. So when I would you know when I would discuss with my friends who are, you know, who are from a different religious tradition, Abrahamic tradition, they would always say, you know, God having a form limits him. God looking like this limits him. So I said to them, so what is the true display of God's majesty, God's power? And they said, not having a form, because a form by itself is limiting. So I was thinking, well, you know, I was thinking about this, and I, you know, and my response is person. And then I remember what Prabhupada describes in his books. He says that he's Krishna. He says he goes to great length to explain that each of Krishna's bodies parts can demonstrate the power, or demonstrate the power of another body part. So, for example, Krishna can eat our offering to him by looking at the prasadam. Krishna can hear us far away. Krishna is everywhere. He pervades the, you know, the whole universe by in his form of the Paramatma. Krishna saved Draupadi. You know, he was in Dwarka and he was able to save Draupadi by giving her unlimited robes. So Krishna's form is unlimited. It's not limited. Someone once said to Prabhupada, can God lift something that he can't create? So Prabhupada said, yes, he can. He can create something that he can't lift, but then he'll be able to lift it later on, because his potency is always increasing. It's not static like we expect things to be. It's always increasing, because that's the nature of God. So Krishna's potencies, Krishna can do anything. Krishna's form is unlimited. Prabhupada explains in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna was 125 years old by material standards at the time of speaking the Bhagavad Gita, but he didn't look like an old person. He looked like a young person. We read of the pastimes in the Bhagavatam when Brahma took away the calves and the cowhead boys, because he wanted to test Krishna's supremacy, and Krishna expanded himself to fill up all those roles. So nobody noticed they were missing. And then when Lord Brahma came back, he realized what Krishna had done, and it was totally inconceivable to him. And then he realized that, you know, you're God. Another time, Lord Brahma, he visited the assembly of Krishna in Dwarka. He said, I've come to have darshan and give my report to Krishna, my report. So the doorkeeper said to Brahma, which Brahma are you? So Brahma was, you know, he was bewildered. He said, what do you mean, which Brahma? I am Lord Brahma, four-headed Brahma. Please tell Krishna I'm here. So then they let him in. And then when he entered the assembly, he was astonished when he saw he wasn't the only Brahma there. There were many other Brahmas. There were some Brahmas with 10 heads, some Brahmas with 1,000 heads, some with 1 million, 10 million. And Brahma felt like our Brahma felt like an ant compared to all these other Brahmas. And all the Lord Brahmas were bowing down to Lord Krishna. And Lord Brahma said a famous statement. He said, people think they can understand Krishna. Let them. I, on the other hand, cannot understand Krishna. You know, and I have 4 heads. I'm the first person to receive Vedic knowledge. I can't understand Krishna. So if these people want to think like that, do that. And you know, Lord Brahma is the most, he's said to be, he's this most intelligent person in our universe. He's the head of our parampara. And he's got 4 heads, and each head is more intelligent, has more intelligence and much more than all the other brains put together in our universe. And he's got 4 heads. Even he can't understand the glories of Lord Krishna. So inconceivable. So, you know, and, you know, we don't even need to speak about God. We can look at material nature. There's so many things within material nature we don't understand. We don't understand how it works. For example, you know, I was just reading just today that, you know, geologists have only really studied like 5% of the ocean. They don't understand 95% because they can't go down deep enough because of the water pressure, because of the lack of sunlight. it's not possible. Even, you know, I was watching this program where this person was talking about different species being discovered. There's meant to be like a monkey like chimpanzees, which are the size of human beings, which kill lions in the Congo jungle, which is right deep in the jungle, which people don't really go to. And that reminded me, you know, of a story where, you know, hundreds of years ago, people thought the gorilla was a mythological creature, like Bigfoot. They didn't believe that there was this thing called a gorilla. But then they discovered it, and then they said, oh, it's true. It's not mythological. So there's many species, many things that even scientists haven't discovered or are starting to discover and they take the credibility for discovering, but it was over there. We just don't know. I was listening to this lecture many years back by one Prabhupada disciple, and he was at a conference, and he was saying that actually he was remembering these words from this prominent scientist, you know, who's got a Nobel Peace Prize, and he was saying, you know, people are trying to understand the Big Bang Theory. I just want to understand water. It's so complex, and I was really bewildered. I was like, I thought we understand water. You know, it's we drink it, we need it for washing, we need it for this, we need it for that. But how it's constituted, how it works, is so complex, and that's such a simple thing. You know, we look at the universe. You know, they say most of the universe, the scientists say, is dark energy, dark matter, which is like something like, I don't know, 80%. So it does like 80%. They don't even know what it is. You know, I remember a few months ago, I was giving class, you know, and I said that, you know, it's very unlikely that scientists went to the moon, and someone got disturbed and, you know, asked questions. But when I was doing a bit more research, I was reading a book called Surya Siddhanta and Sariputta Prabhu's book, Vedic Cosmography. And he was explaining that when Shukadev Goswami explains the universe, he's explaining from his perspective, looking up. So and that's a partial truth of the universe. There's much more to that. So all these things are so bewildering, so it's so overwhelming, you know, it goes against our common sense. So if we look at human society, everything is based on common sense. But what is common sense based on? It's based on our sense perception. It's based on what we've experienced. I mean, it's like, you know, Prabhupada gives the story of the frog in the well. The frog in the well is trying to understand the ocean because he's never been outside the well. And, you know, and that's what the scientists are like. That's what we're like if we're trying to understand things beyond our sense perception. You know, we can't even, it's explained us that we can only see so far and see so near. We can't hear at the level that a dog can. You know, you have these whistles that you blow into, and it's so subtle that only dogs can hear it. We can't hear it. Our sense is not designed that way. Our body is very limited in what it can do. You know, we can't survive in our body. It's explained, I was reading that if a human body was found in the ocean, because the ocean has so much salt, that the body, you know, because, you know, people drown, they say the body sometimes it gets dissolved in the ocean because of the level of salt. It becomes, you know, kind of like, it becomes like acidity to the body. So our body's not designed to survive in water. Our body's not designed to survive in the cold. It's not designed to survive in the heat. We can only survive on a certain realm. And then when we try to think that our body and our intelligence is suitable for other realms, it's crazy. So like, I remember like there was a discussion with Prabhupada and his disciples, and they were talking about the universe. And Prabhupada was explaining, I think it was about the position of the sun and moon. I can't remember exactly. But one Prabhupada disciple said, this doesn't make sense. This is not logical. And Prabhupada responded by saying, you are simply prejudiced. You've been brainwashed into thinking this. You don't know for sure. You don't understand it. So you just go along with it. But Krishna knows his creation better than you. So you know, so when we try to understand things beyond our purview, you know, we fall into trouble. We can either speculate, we can accept we don't know, and we can turn to someone who knows. You know, like a very simple example is if you want to know somebody, you know, you can look at their face, you can look at their clothes, you can see the car they drive, you can kind of speculate what type of person they are, but really you don't really know their personality. You have to ask that person, or you ask someone who knows that person or to understand their nature. So the reality, Krishna, can only be understood by turning to the perfect source, which is the Vedas. The Vedas has, Prabhupada gives the example of, it's a current theme. He says again and again about, accepting authority. He says about the Vedas. He says, he uses the example of, he says in the Vedas, he says you shouldn't touch the bone of an animal, but because it's impure. But conch shell is pure. We use that in our puja. We shouldn't touch stool of an animal, but cow dung is pure. Most of the world thinks cow dung is impure. They wouldn't go near it. But we know it has it's a very versatile product. You can use it for fuel. You can use it for medicine. You can use it for fertilization. I remember going to an Indian village and seeing all the cow dung patties on the walls because it keeps your house warm in the winter, and in the summer, in the summer keeps your house cool. And apparently, no fly lands on it. You also hear about cow urine is very pure. People use it for medicine. Even the Prabhupada, I remember reading, I think it was in Prabhupada's books, I'm not sure, about the Ganga, where they took the Ganga in a bottle from India to the West, and it didn't deteriorate. It didn't become stale like other waters. So there are so many things. So Prabhupada says we just accept it. Just like, if you want to know who your father is, you ask your mother, because your mother is the authority. You trust your mother. She knows best. And if you ask her, then you accept it. So what does it take for us to accept the Vedas? It takes humility. It takes realization that we're not so great. We don't really understand the world like we think we do. So like real learning starts with humility. It starts by accepting that, I don't know. I don't know. I want to know the truth. I've exhausted all my options. I want to surrender. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanena tattvadarshina. He says, accept a realized person, render service to him, inquire from humbly because he has realized the truth. So you have to show surrender and humility. Then the spiritual master will give you knowledge, because that knowledge is descending knowledge. It's coming from Krishna, and he's realized that knowledge. It's vijnana. It's not just jnana. So we can challenge as much as we want, but we will never understand reality. It's like, if you want to understand the code to something, like, I don't know, the code to get into a house for a mobile phone, you can do as much as you want, but you won't get it. But until you ask the person who knows the code, and it has to be in a certain spirit. So the spirit of humility, the spirit of acceptance is so important. And Krishna teaches that in the Bhagavad Gita. And if you look at throughout the Vedas, there is, different scenarios of a student surrendering onto a spiritual master to learn, to inquire. So there is a culture. Krishna likes humble people. He doesn't like proud people. We have, it's not just extended to scientists, but actually there's also people from the Vedic tradition who are Mayavadis or who are Smarta Brahmanas, or just Hindu scholars who study it, but they completely miss the point. Krishna stu Bhagavan Swam after reading the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada compares them to, it compares, like, there's like the Vedas is like the honey. Krishna is the honey of the Vedas, and it's in the bottle. So the bottle is the Vedas, and there's a jar on top. So the bees are like all these different mundane scholars, religionists. They're trying to access it, but they can't get to it. But only a devotee can access it, because he can open it up and access the nectar. And that starts, with humility and acceptance. That's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, he says the very famous verse that, we should be humble and tolerant, Then Krishna will allow you into his association, and then you'll be able to understand. Then things will make sense. It's like there's many people who study the Vedas and they don't understand. They say, Krishna's not in the Vedas, Bhakti's not in the Vedas. But because, Sanskrit is a very versatile language, but sometimes we think, but that language is the language of God. It's the language of Krishna. So Krishna, you could read it, but Krishna will block your intelligence. Krishna says, forgetfulness, remembrance, knowledge comes from me. So if you want to understand something, you have to acknowledge that Krishna is the one who's giving you this faculty. So you could read something and you'll completely miss the point. So if you have that, if you're a devotee, you can get it. So like Madhvacharya, he explains in his commentary on the Rig Veda, he says that every verse or every mantra can be interpreted on 3 levels. It can be interpreted as referring to material nature, to the demigods, or to the Supreme Lord. Now, generally people, mundane scholars, mundane religionists, they will probably just interpret it on the first 2 levels. They will never be able to get to Krishna. We also, and we can extend that even further. We can think about even the Tattva Vid. There's 3 classes. There's the Brahmavadis, and and there's the Brahmavadis, and there's the Paramatmavadis. They can only get to Bhagwan level by receiving the mercy of a devotee. And you only receive the mercy of a devotee, or mercy of Krishna, by being humble. So we cannot make any progress in Krishna consciousness without humility and acceptance, and accepting on faith that the Vedas is the absolute is the most authoritative authoritative source of knowledge. So there's this very famous book by Jiva Goswami called the Tattva Sandarbha, and he studies. He basically is a study of epistemology. He's talking about what is the most reliable source of knowledge, and he goes through the different sources of knowledge until he gets to scripture. He goes through he talks about how the senses are imperfect, they can't give us perfect knowledge. Our mind, our anumana, our logic is limited. Then he gets to scripture. Then he goes through the different scriptures, and he establishes that the Bhagavatam is the most authoritative scripture in this age of Kali, because it's Amala Purana. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted it as. We can't accept. We have to accept that we have to take the position that we don't know. And it's a very hard position to do, like just to admit you're wrong. It's a very difficult thing, because we're generally quite proud people. Just even to say we're wrong and say sorry, it's such a difficult thing. So we cannot use our common sense to determine anything. Common sense is only limited in certain things. Outside that, it's a different law. Like I remember I was speaking to I emailed this one very learned Pandit, and he was explaining to me that we were speaking about maybe something very simple, and he said to me that people say 1 + 1 is 2. I mean, but you have to take that on faith that 1 + 1 is 2. It's like if you have because you don't know what you're perceiving is what you think it to be. So how do you know what you're perceiving is actually you adding 2 things together? And then you're saying, like, if you have a drop, this dropper thing which drops water, and you drop it on a table, you drop 1 drop, that's 1 drop. But if you drop another drop on it, that they will merge and it'll become 1. So how is it 1 + 1 is 2? And he said you have to take a lot of things we know in faith. And then he was explaining to me that how a lot of these scientific theories are based, even is based on faith, and a lot of it is blind faith. And one very interesting thing I found out was about the Big Bang Theory. There's 2 theories. I don't know the 2 theories. There's 2 theories that have to work together to make the Big Bang Theory work theoretically. I mean, it's really interesting. I was reading yesterday, but I can't remember it now. But these 2 theories, scientists have never been able to put them together. So because they can't put them together, technically, there's not really a Big Bang Theory. So because Big Bang Theory is contingent on these 2 theories being shown to be compatible, so then you have a working theory. So there's so many things we take for granted. We accept it on faith. So Prabhupada says we have to accept the Vedas on faith. But our faith is not blind faith. Our faith is credible, because we have the achievements, the behavior of the people who followed the Vedas, and they achieved the truth. They were trustworthy people. They were people of high standard, high character. I mean, and they weren't people who lied. And there were many people who followed the process they did. They also got the same growth. So it's a very credible process. And it's not something that was over 10 years, 20 years. We're going back nearly million years. Bhagavatam shows the example of many people who followed the process and achieved perfection. So it's very credible. So when people says blind faith, and blind faith is when you give good reasons for something and you still don't accept it, that's blind faith. Blind faith is not when you have good reason to follow something. So so spiritual, it doesn't matter if spiritual reality is contradictory or there's a paradox, because we're dealing with forget transcendental, we're dealing with material concepts which are very advanced for us. We can't understand. What to speak of spiritual reality? It's like, they say in science, one of the most difficult concepts to understand is consciousness. They still haven't been able to come to a very credible, uniform theory of what is consciousness. It's the biggest thing that's bewildering scientists today. And these are people who are in the field they're not God conscious. They are saying we just don't know. Anyone who says they understand consciousness, they're just lying. They don't know. So the material reality is so complex. What to speak of spiritual reality? I remember I was in India. I went to where Krishna was born in Mathura. I mean, it's not the actual place because they built a mosque there, but they had a temple next door built, and they said there was a deity of the original deity, the Radha Krishna deity, was hovering in midair. It was in midair. It wasn't on the floor. They had said they had a material technology, which was the deities were able to levitate. I don't know how it worked. I mean, and that knowledge just seems to be lost, but they had that technology. And, and even in Somnath, which is one of the most ancient temples in India, even the deities were like that as well. Then the Mughals came and destroyed it. They were amazed and jealous. How does the Hindus have this type of technology? Because, we go to Jagannath Puri, we see the flag of float moving in the opposite direction of the wind. How's that possible? There's so many wonderful and amazing things we see. There's temples in India. There's a famous temple, I think it's the Lord Shivan temple in Maharashtra. The way it's been built, it hasn't been built and put together. It's been dug from the concrete granites. Well, it's not concrete. It's granite. Sorry, I think it is. But and then when we look at the towers of Giza, the pyramids, they're saying people don't know how that was built using the so-called technology, because it's designed in such a scientific way, in such a geometrical way, it's so perfect that they could not have put it together by using tens of thousands of people lifting or leveraging it on top of each other. It's not possible. They cannot do it. So how did they do it? There was ancient technology, there was ancient things, which they don't know how it works. The Vedas discusses all this. That's why, it's explained, even Hitler was studying the Vedas he was studying the Dharmaraja Veda to try to get a technological advantage over the Allies. So the Vedas has amazing, wonderful information. It's beyond our sense perception. It's contradictory. It's a paradox. It's complex, and it's mysterious. But we have to have faith in it because that is the word of God, and we have good reasons to believe it. It's not that we're making it one day. We just suddenly decide to start following it. And it reminds me of this type. And we need this really strong faith, this really deep faith, pure faith, to believe, to accept this and progress on this path. So I was thinking of Narada Muni, and he was on his way to Vaikuntha, and then he met a Brahmana, and he met a cobbler on different paths. And the Brahmana asked him, when you see Lord Narayan, can you ask him when I will reach salvation, when I'll attain salvation? So then the cobbler also asked that, can you also ask him when I'll attain salvation? So he reached Vaikuntha, had the assembly of Lord Narayan, and he asked Lord Narayan, I met a Brahmana, I met a cobbler, and I asked them, they asked me to ask you this question. So the Lord Narayan said, well, the Brahmana, he doesn't really have strong faith. He doesn't really believe me. I don't know when he's going to come back to me, but the cobbler will come back to me in his next life. So then Narada Muni said, well, how's that possible? The Brahmana follows Vedic culture to the T. He's a Paka Brahmana. He's got no faults in his character. The cobbler he's doing mundane work. He's not doing any Brahmanical spiritual work. So then the Lord said to them, Narada Muni, what you do is when you see them, say to them, when they ask what I'm doing, that I'm threading an elephant through a needle head, the pin of a needle. So then Narada Muni said, okay. So he went back to earth and he saw the Brahmana. When he said to the Brahmana, so the Brahmana said, when will I be asked him, how is the Lord? What is the Lord doing? And Narada Muni said, well, yeah, I saw the Lord. He was threading an elephant through a needle. So then the Brahmana was disturbed. He said, why? He can't do that. That doesn't make sense. That's impossible. So then he went to the cobbler, and the cobbler said, when he told the cobbler what the Lord was doing, threading an elephant through needle, he said, the cobbler's reaction was totally different. He was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. My Lord can do anything. So then by the reaction of the Brahmin and the cobbler, Narada Muni could understand why the cobbler was guaranteed to go back to Godhead in his next life, because he really believed in the Lord. He really had strong faith. So Krishna consciousness, to be Prabhupada says that, spiritual life begins with surrender to Krishna. And when you surrender to Krishna, you have pure faith. And pure faith is that no matter if I just follow my duties in Krishna consciousness, all my needs will be looked after, and Krishna will protect me no matter what. So that is what it means. That's the beginning of spiritual life. That's not even the advanced stage. It's the beginning of spiritual life, and that becomes a prerequisite to practice devotional service. So you can do all the rituals, you can do all the things, but if you don't have faith in Krishna, then you're not going to make much progress. So we read in the Krishna book about the Brahmanas and the Brahmanas' wife. The Brahmanas were ritualistic Brahmanas, and when Krishna and Balaram came to see them, they wouldn't give them any fruits, but the Brahmanas' wives gave Krishna and Balaram fruits to eat because they understood the purpose of the Vedas. They had faith in Krishna. So we need to just accept the authority of the Vedas, authority of our spiritual masters, of senior devotees. They know what's best because they are in sync with Krishna. So they don't have authority because they just repeat what they don't have authority because the Vedas says they have authority. They have authority because they repeat the words of Krishna. So a true disciple repeats what his spiritual master says, because his spiritual master is repeating repeating it in parampara. So that's what gives him authority. That's what gives him shakti. That what allows him to make progress. So we can read all this amazing information, we won't get it. I remember there was this Hindu youth forum. I'm going back to like 2002, 2001, and there were all these different Hindu groups. And I met this one Hindu, and he was like saying, I'm a devotee of Krishna. Krishna's like my friend. And then someone said to him, so do you believe Krishna is an actual historical person that lived in India 5,000 years ago? He says, of course not. He said, it's just a mythological character. It's just for us to focus our attention on Brahman, and I'm using Krishna as that medium. So basically he didn't really understand Krishna. He didn't understand Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna talks about himself, he says Mam. He says Vedascha Sarved Aham Eva Vedyo. I am the goal of the Ved. He never understood it. And this guy knew Sanskrit. He was very intelligent. He had a master's degree, but he couldn't get it because Krishna didn't allow him to understand it. So because he allowed his common sense logic to supersede his faith and knowledge of the Vedas. We also read. There's this one guy, I forgot his name now. He's an American, and he won some Shastri award from the government for his studies in Ayurveda and Jyotish and Hindu nationalism and everything. And someone asked him, about Lord Ram? And this person said, of course it didn't exist. How can such a character exist? And I'm like, you're considered to be like this acharya of Vedic culture, and you don't even believe in the personalities who talk these things, who represent these things. I mean, what is the value of you? So this is the problem. So like, real faith is to accept the Vedas, despite what our common sense is. I remember like there was this. I was in a class at South Street, and Jade Vetamaj was giving class, and there was because Jade Vetamaj likes to get into debates with people, and there was this Indian man who came. He was a little bit eccentric. And he was challenging Maharaj, and he said to Jade Vetamaj, he said, so do you accept Hanuman? There's a person called Hanuman who lifted the mountain. And Maharaj said, yeah, sure, why not? So that man said, what? It's just mythology. It makes no sense. It's impossible. So Jade Vetamaj said, it's impossible for you because you can't do it. So then this guy was like, he was eccentric, he was a little bit crazy. So he said, well, how do you know I can't do it? So then Jade Vetamaj said to him, well, if you can do it, then why can't Hanuman, So then he realized, then everyone started laughing because that man realized he just defeated himself. But it was like, it's like people, his thing was like, He can't believe it because he can't see it or he's never seen it. But you know, how long in that present body, he doesn't know what happened before. He doesn't know what's going to happen in the future. He doesn't know what existed. He doesn't know what's going on around the world. So it's the problem is it's our false ego that stops us from accepting it. Like we have problems with people who they read certain things in Shastra. You know, people have left Krishna consciousness of because they couldn't accept certain things. Like they couldn't accept the moon landing. They couldn't accept Prabhupada's teachings to do certain things. They couldn't accept it because they were being over intelligent. They were trying to understand through their common sense. And common sense, you know, in the material, common sense is not, it's uncommon. Real common sense is uncommon. People are not using their common sense. It's like they're no better than the person, you know, the frog in the well, who's just completely speculating. It's just making it up as it goes along. So we have to turn to authority. And if we look at our lives, we are always turning to authority when it comes to our health, when it comes to our finance, when it comes to our education. We turn to authority anyway. So Veda is mother. You know, Veda is the supermost authority because it's the words of God. It's Shabda Brahman, and that will give us access to reality. We don't need to understand how something is. We just need to accept it. And this body is not suitable for us to understand the material universe. It's not suitable for us to travel to different places, right? We're not qualified. So just like Arjuna, he was qualified with a celestial vision to see the Vishwarupa, because that was a material form that was beyond his human vision. So Krishna empowered him to do that. So Krishna, so in the same way, when we become spiritually qualified, we'll be able to understand all these things because our intelligence becomes spiritualized. Krishna will give us the intelligence from within, the Dhammi Buddhi Yogam. He will give us intelligence to go back to him, and we'll be able to understand all these matters. It doesn't matter. That's like sometimes, you know, like we see that when we're preaching, like in debating, sometimes like we're debating something and they're defeating us. And then somehow Krishna gives us some new insight and we're able to use that argument and we can defeat that person because that's Krishna. There's Krishna giving it to us. So, and you know, these Prabhupada said that the books he wrote, he doesn't remember, he read his own books and sometimes he would get new realization. And sometimes he said, you know, I don't remember writing this. I can't believe I wrote this. So these books are coming from Krishna. It's Shabda Brahman. It's coming directly from Krishna. It's coming from the spiritual world. So we should not be bewildered when someone says, "Oh, that's, you know, it doesn't make sense. It's not common sense." Because even like the scientist said, even water's complex. I don't understand water, and I've got a Nobel Peace Prize on it. So, you know, we shouldn't be bewildered by this thing. We should accept that we are like this tiny ant that doesn't understand anything. We just need to accept the Vedas on truth because it's credible, because people have followed it and they've got the goal. And then we'll go back. You know, and so this topic of inconceivability, you know, where things are beyond our difficult to understand, is very much a part of life. We see it in nature, we see it everywhere. You know, like how, you know, food goes into our stomach, it turns into energy which is distributed throughout the body. That's also inconceivable. You know, Prabhupada talked about he talks about Achintya Shakti, he talks about the soul even has a Achintya Shakti. It's like we cut our nails and our nail grows back. We cut our hair, well, if you have hair, it grows back. You know, so there's so many things. You know, so there's so many things that is happening to us. So it's all around us, but we just become like what's that word called? We just become like immune to it, but it's so natural to us. So we should have humility in accepting the Vedas. We should have humility and accept we don't know anything, and have full faith in the Vedas and the spiritual masters. And then we will have true common sense. And our commons and a true understanding of the Vedas is Ete Jamsa Kalaha Pumsa Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. We'll come to the conclusion that Lord Brahma came to, which was Govinda Mari Purusham Dhammaham Bhajami. And we'll be able to see Krishna in the Vedas. We'll be able to see Krishna in everything. We'll be able to relate everything to Krishna to our lives and make spiritual advancement. And these statements about the Vishwarupa or anything wonderful will not deviate us or will not disturb us. So I'll stop here. If anyone has any questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for this session today. Are you able to hear me, Prabhuji?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Prabhuji, before I open up to everybody, I have a small question. Prabhuji, when we believe that Krishna will protect me no matter what, and we accept the Vedas, and we accept the devotees, and we try to do what they ask us to do, the very fact that confidence that we have that Krishna will protect me no matter what, will that not make us lazy, or will we not take things for granted? Will we not put less effort into things that we usually put so much effort into?
It's a good question. I mean, the thing is like when Krishna protects us, it's not like that he will make our breakfast, he will do our bed, he'll take us to work. It doesn't mean that. It still means we do our duty. The true protection, that Krishna will protect us either on the spiritual level, material level, or the mental level, and that depends on Krishna. But Krishna will, the guarantee that Krishna makes 100%, he'll protect our spiritual consciousness. So when we do, because it says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that pure faith is someone who does his duty, and Krishna will fulfill his need, and Krishna will make sure he's looked after, and which means his spiritual consciousness will be protected. Krishna will give him enough to survive, just because we're not interested in wants, we're interested in needs. So we have to do our duty. We have to chant our rounds. We have to do our duty in the world and engage that in Krishna. It's not that we become stagnant, we don't do nothing. So, and what stops us from getting that understanding is by reading Prabhupada's books and associating with devotees. So we should understand what Krishna's protection means, as opposed to what we think it means. So this is another example of our common sense superseding Krishna's instructions. So we need to read scripture and understand from devotees what Krishna means, because we don't see in the Vedas where people do nothing and Krishna does everything. It doesn't work like that. We have to work. Krishna doesn't like lazy people. That's why he says to Arjuna, he says, because Arjuna is a Kshatriya, he says, Mama Nusmara Yudhyacha. He says, think of me and fight. Because Arjuna just wants to go to the forest and become a yogi. And in one sense, that is a type of duty for certain types of people, but that wasn't Arjuna's nature. Krishna wants you to engage your nature and use that for him, not for yourself, or not do your duty, because that's the meaning of Yukta Vairagya, engaging our nature in Krishna service. So we have to make sure that our intelligence, I mean, it really all boils down to our intelligence taking over our false ego, our material intelligence. So we have to make sure that it's spiritualized by reading scripture, associating devotees who can put us on the right understanding, so we don't come to this type of wrong conclusions. Does that answer your question, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you for that clarification. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the group?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Kindly accept my
Hare
humble
Krishna.
greetings. Oh, good, Sri Prabhupada. Prabhuji,
Jai.
I think, I don't know, the angle I see it when we say Krishna will protect us, it may be like we will not come back into this cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. Even if we come, we will have, we'll take birth in a higher family or in a rich family, there we can practice whatever we have left. I think this means this also. Instead of we thinking that, oh, I'm Krishna conscious, I won't have a headache, that doesn't exist, because it's our karma also. We have come here just to pay for our karmas. That has to be done. So
yeah. So can I just clarify? I understood your question properly. So what you're saying is that even though we're Krishna conscious, it's like we still need to deal with the material world. We still need to deal with our karma and challenges. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, that's good. So in Krishna consciousness, as we're practicing bhakti, our karma that hasn't that is yet to come can be destroyed. Our karma that's right now, like our body, that can't be destroyed at the moment, but we can destroy certain things that are about to come. also we have to understand when Prabhupada explains that when we practice bhakti, there were certain things that were meant to happen to us, like, you know, forms of punishment. You know, Prabhupada gives the example of, you know, when one of his disciples injured or cut his hand or injured his hand, Prabhupada said, your hand was meant to be cut off, but Krishna just cut your finger. He minimized the karma, you know? So like that Krishna does do that as well, because you do come under the protection of Krishna. Because we're, you know, like so your karma changes. Prabhupada gives example, if you clap your hands in kirtan, the lines on your hands change, because it's a spiritual reality. It supersedes and supersedes material conditioning, material karma. I was so Krishna, even though you're in a material world, you still need to deal with your karma, but your karma does get minimized. And it's not, even if it doesn't get minimized, it comes under the control of Krishna, and Krishna gives it to you in such a way where it doesn't take you away from him, you know. Because if you're not a devotee and your karma is just attacking you, you're just going to go with the modes of material nature. But when you're a devotee and your karma is coming to you, you will act in a Krishna conscious way. So we take it that Krishna takes control of that karma, and he gives it to us in such a way that it purifies us of our material desires and develops our love for Krishna. So like when we go to when I was in the Dham in March, I went to Mayapur for the Gopinim festival. I remember like my wife got sick, and then I got sick, and then I was thinking, you know, it was just before Gopinim. I had this really bad fever, and I got really upset. You know, why am I getting upset? You know, why am I getting so sick? I took all precautions. I've been waiting for a long time to come for the festival, and my friend who was a devotee who lives there, he said to me, you know, Krishna, he purified. You must have done something wrong, and Krishna is purifying you, but he's minimizing it, so you learn from it. And that really helped me to appreciate that everything that happens to us as devotees is Krishna teaching us something. So we have to learn from it. So we should never take it that it's just Maya, material nature, just attacking us. It's Krishna giving it to us, and we have to respond to that in a Krishna conscious way. And you know, like and we, you know, it's also explained in the third canto that when we practice bhakti, our subtle body is dissolved. So that's where all the karma state, that's where all the reactions are. So that gets dissolved. So then and really when we come to the end of our, as we practice in bhakti, our subtle body is dissolved. So that's the thing that holds our body to our soul. And once that's dissolved, then the body falls off, and that's the time of death, and then we'll go back to Godhead. So well, we go to Bhoma Vrindavan, and we go to, you know, Krishna's Vaikuntha, but we should always take it as devotees that we're always under the protection of Krishna. And even if something mundane, material thing happens, whether it's a serious illness, whether we lose, you know, like he says in the Bhagavatam, if Krishna shows favor by taking away all his material things, we should always take it that this is Krishna's mercy to us, and Krishna is forcing us to be a better devotee. And how we react to that depends on our consciousness, which is cultivated by, you know, following the process of Krishna consciousness. Is that okay, Mataji? Would you like?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And also we were talking about so many people, so many scientists who don't believe, even though they have got a Nobel Prizes, they don't believe. But they are like Gyanis, you know, they get the knowledge, they use it, but they don't know really the meaning. They're just kind of showing off and getting something. And
Yes.
And this, you talk about Hitler and he and Dr. Oppenheimer, you know, Robert Oppenheimer. Yes, he built the first atomic bomb, and then when they were trying that, I heard a class from Siddhartha Swami, and he was saying that when they tested that bomb in 1945 in the New Mexico, so that was Robert Oppenheimer. He recited this verse, you know, this Bhagavad Gita chapter 11 verse 32, I think it was. It was Loka Loksatyate Prabhadha Lokan Samarhatam Iha Prabhate. That I am Kal, you know, I am. So he both of them they recited that verse because they were appreciating Krishna in a very negative way, and they think that yes, we have done something, but what have they learned? They have learned only how to use the energy of Krishna in a wrong way, and they were glorifying Krishna at the same time. Yeah.
Yes, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, it's very true. I mean, if you read Oppenheimer, I mean, they didn't really show it in the film, but actually, one devotee wrote somewhat of a biography about him, and He actually he learned Sanskrit and he became a follower of the. He didn't become a devotee, but he became a student of the Gita. He studied it heavily, and it really influenced him in other aspects of his life. But yeah, I mean, definitely, like these personalities, they are showing off, or they're trying to do it for, because if you're not doing it for Krishna, you're doing it for yourself. So it's a materialistic activity. So you can say it's showing off, and it won't lead to good results. So, and the thing is, you can't, if you can speculate to the end of time, but you will never be able to come to Krishna consciousness. It's like even the Brahmavadis and the Paramatmavadis, they have to, even though they believe in there's a God, they don't really understand it, and because of the level of consciousness, even they have to receive the mercy of Krishna or mercy of a devotee to come to the Bhagwan level, to practice Krishna consciousness. So, and that all starts with humility. That starts with humility, that we don't really know anything. Just like the scientist said, I don't understand water. There's actually a book written in UK. I forgot the name of the book, but there's a scientist. His name is Rupert Sheldrake, I think, and he wrote a book, and he's basically challenging the 10 dogmas of science. And his book's been banned in America. He's been kind of ostracized, and this guy's he's like a Cambridge scientist. As a respected scientist, and even he said there's so many dogmas, and we're just going along with it. We don't really know anything. We're just taking it on blind faith. Anyway, thank you for that. Does anyone have a comment or question?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. We've exhausted our time for today.
Thank you very much.
Can I request Indulekha Mataji, can you kindly end this session today, please?
Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you so much, Prabhuji. We get general knowledge as well in this Bhagavatam session. Lots of new things we are learning every day, and it's nice that we share our little bit that we know, so that everybody learn together and grow together, and we hopefully will be happy in this material world where there's so much bad thing going on. So please, I will request everyone to unmute and say, to cheer Prabhuji up and say thank you to Prabhuji. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Grantharajman Bhagavatam ki jai. Oh, this is
Jai.
Vanchakal 44, right? Vanchakalpatarupyasya
Vanchakapatruvyasya
kripa
kripasindhubhye vacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Grantharajman Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Nitya West Hindi ki jai. Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai. Hare
Jai.
Krishna. Thank you
Hare
everyone.
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you
Hare
very much,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Arya Govind Prabhu, can you please stay for a minute?
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, did you get the timetable that I sent you on WhatsApp?
When did you send, Mataji?
I sent it last week, but you did not respond, which is very unlike you. So maybe I can send it again.
Okay. How's your
send-
mother-in-law, Mataji?
Prabhuji, she's still in ICU. We are giving 7 to 8 hours,
Okay.
and then we can decide what to do. So,
Okay, Mataji.
so anyway, thank you, Prabhuji, for asking. So if you can check your WhatsApp, because I think there's a class for you this Friday and next Friday, if possible. If not, then I'll have to look out for somebody else.
This Friday, yes, I've seen it. 1:33 and 1:39.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. Okay, Mataji. Yeah, it looks possible. There's no problem. But if you get another speaker, maybe one of the days you can engage, and the other day I can do.
Okay, if I get, but if not, then you are okay
If not,
with it.
I'll handle, Mataji. Yes.
Okay, okay, Prabhuji.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.